So this video is just going to go into a bit more detail about those schedules of reinforcement and some of the theoretical explanations for the consistent patterns of behavior we see when we put any person or animal on a given schedule. So those patterns we saw for FR, VR, FI, and VI, those are describing what the animal ends up doing after it's been exposed to that contingency, to that schedule, for a while. In other words, how it ends up responding consistently in that type of situation in the long run. So what that's referring to is actually their steady state performance, where steady state just means the steady or predictable pattern seen once an organism has enough experience with a schedule of reinforcement, like once their brain has learned that pattern. Whereas before they get to that point, when they're still learning it or getting used to a new schedule, we say they're in a transition state. That's the more irregular patterns of behavior that we see when the organism's first placed on a new schedule of reinforcement. Basically, it takes a while for an individual to learn the contingency, but once they do, they fall into a stable pattern that's pretty much identical and predictable, like that break and run pattern for fixed ratio or the scallop pattern for fixed interval, that kind of thing. Now, some important details to know. First, ratio schedules, like fixed ratio and variable ratio, they tend to produce the highest rate of behavior, all else being equal, with specifically variable ratio schedules having the very highest of those. But ratio schedules get more behavior out of the creature, a higher rate of behavior than interval schedules in general. And we'll come back in a moment to the reason for that. But second, as we've already seen, fixed schedules have a pause, a post-reinforcement pause, PRP, but variable schedules don't. And we kind of know the basic reason for that post-reinforcement pause already. It's because if they just got a reinforcer, they know they can't get another one immediately. Now, there are details we'll get into later in the semester about why that pause might be the length that it is, but the reason that they have the pause is basically they've figured out I'm not going to get rewarded for my next behavior if I just got rewarded. So we already talked about that. I did want to point out finally, when it comes to extinction, so operant extinction, that's when you stop giving a reinforcer for the behavior. So as soon as we start extinction, they're no longer getting reinforced for that behavior. What happens? Well, for those fixed schedules, like the fixed ratio, the FR, or the fixed interval, like the FI, the ones that had pauses, right? The fixed ones are the ones that had pauses. What happens is when you go on extinction and stop rewarding them for the behavior, those pauses get longer and longer, as you can kind of see in the extinction part of the graph here on the right. Eventually, of course, they're going to stop doing the behavior at all. The rate will totally flatten out to zero. But for variable schedules, so variable ratio, variable interval, the unpredictable schedules, those are more resistant to extinction, meaning the behavior will stay, it'll keep happening, it'll stay kind of stable a while, the rate won't go down as quickly, even when they stop getting reinforced for doing the behavior. And think about why that might be, like why variable schedules would take longer to extinguish. Maybe even pause the video here and see if you can answer that before we go on. Basically, think of it this way. On a variable schedule, you're used to going a while without getting reinforced because it's unpredictable, because sometimes you just have those times where it takes longer than usual or more behaviors than usual to get reinforced. You're used to sometimes going a while without reinforcement. So it's not such a surprise or a disappointment when on a given trial, it doesn't pay off, because in the past, it's always been kind of unpredictable. So basically, when there are fewer clear opportunities to catch on to that change, then it's not going to be as clear that extinction has begun or that extinction is happening. It's very similar to that logic we talked about behind the partial reinforcement effect, the PRE. So we saw that intermittent schedules in general keep the behavior going longer than CRF schedules after extinction begins. They're more resistant to extinction. But now we see among the intermittent reinforcement schedules, so all these schedules we've been talking about, the variable ones keep the behavior going longer than the fixed ones after you've started extinction, after you're no longer reinforcing the behavior. So if you want a person or your pet or a client or a user of your app to continue a behavior, even when you're not there to reinforce very much, using a VR or a VI schedule would probably be your best bet. It'll avoid extinction kicking in as quickly. Okay, So we know why these bottom two things in the list here happen, but what about that top one? I said we'd come back and talk about why ratio schedules tend to produce the highest rate of behavior. So why is that? Once again, you might actually pause the video here, take a moment to speculate. I'll give you a hint. It may help to put yourself in the shoes of a rat that's in a Skinner box, in one of those little operant chambers, and this rat really wants some food. So he's highly motivated, he's going to work his ass off to get as much food as possible. Imagine the rat trying to maximize his food. Put him on like a certain, fixed ratio schedule, and think about the strategy that rat could maximize its food on a fixed ratio schedule. Now imagine the same rat being put on, a certain fixed interval schedule. And think about the way that rat could possibly maximize its food if it's on a fixed interval schedule. Now comparing those two, think about which situation the rat has the potential to get the most food and what its strategy is, how it's going to get that maximum amount of food. So building off of that intuition, let's talk about the two specific ways we could explain this fact, that ratio schedules give a higher rate of behavior than interval. So the first way we could explain it is focusing on the time between their response. So we just call this the inter-response time, IRT. That's something that you could think of, it's kind of under the animal's control, right? They get to choose how long they're waiting between each response that they give, between each behavior. So it can choose how long on average it waits between each time it does, presses the lever if it's a rat in a box. That inter-response time, the IRT, it could be long, it could be short, right? There's variation there. So let's compare ratio types of schedules to interval types of schedules when thinking about that, when thinking about this inter-response time, how long they wait between each time they do the behavior. So imagine on those ratio schedules, what happens if they try out a short inter-response time. In other words, when they do the behavior at kind of a high rate, when they don't wait between each time of doing the behavior. If they try that out on the times when they happen to do a short inter-response time, when they happen to do, not much time between each of their behaviors, then what's going to happen? They're going to get a lot more food, right? The harder they work, the more the food comes out. The quicker that food shows up, they can get more in a session. So the short inter-response time is actually getting reinforced, and thus it makes them more likely to repeat that short inter-response time behavior in the future. It makes short inter-response times more likely in the future as a behavior. What about on interval schedules though? Compare that to interval schedules like the fixed interval or variable interval. Does a short inter-response time help on an interval schedule? Well, when they happen to do a short inter-response time, it doesn't really get any payoff. The lever isn't active because the interval isn't up. So they don't actually get reinforced when they happen to do those short inter-response times. So when they're varying their IRT behavior and they happen to have some of those short times where they're doing the behavior a little more often, it doesn't actually pay off extra. So they're not going to get reinforced that much for the short IRTs. There's no reason to do the behavior close together or very often. So that would be one explanation, one way to explain why ratio schedules make the person or animal do the behavior more often. But there's a second way to look at this, a second possible explanation. So explanation 2 is more focused on entire sessions of experience or longer term stuff, bigger picture. So in ratio schedules, over the whole session, over an entire session, when they happen to do a high rate of response, like today they were just working hard, today they were doing a lot of the behavior, it's going to lead to bigger overall payoff, more food for that whole session, right? And when they happen to do a lower rate of response, that's a session where they won't get as much total food that time. Now, that's on a ratio schedule what happens. What about on interval schedules? Well, now, over a whole session, if they were doing a high rate of response, well, it still doesn't really help, right? It doesn't affect the payoff much. So working hard doesn't pay off in interval schedules because you're waiting on that timer. You're not fully under control. So to give a specific example, think about like a rat on an FR 100 schedule. It has to hit the lever 100 times to get a treat. In that kind of ratio setup, hard work is rewarded. Working twice as fast for a whole session will get you twice as many treats, right? On that ratio schedule. But now imagine an interval schedule. like a VI 100 second schedule or FI 100 second or whatever, they've got that 100-second delay before the lever works again. So in that kind of interval setup, working their ass off for the whole session doesn't really help at all. Working twice as fast makes no difference on interval schedules. You still have to wait out the clock. So most of their responses would be wasted if they're acting really fast, right? You're just wearing out your lever pressing paw or whatever if you're a rat. So in both of those explanations, whether the first or the second one, the key is that the ratio schedules give more payoff for doing the behavior more often. In other words, hard work is rewarded, whereas in interval schedules, they don't give the payoff. Working faster doesn't get you more because you're waiting on that interval. So that's the main thing you should take away from this, even if you're not totally sure the difference between those two explanations. In both cases, it's about ratio rewarding extra effort in a way that interval doesn't. Now, those two distinct explanations we saw, they're actually typical of different ways we might try to explain behavior patterns that we see. The first explanation, the one focusing on the IRT, the inter-response time, it was really honing in on moment-to-moment factors, sort of zooming in on what's happening at each individual behavior, where we might even consider the, how long I wait before my next response to be a behavior, right? The IRT itself is a behavior, the wait time. And we're looking at selective reinforcement that makes that shorter version of the behavior more likely to happen in the future, right? It gets reinforced. That's kind of our, what we call a molecular explanation. Think of molecular, molecules are small. So this is the small picture stuff. This is zooming in on the moment to moment. On the other hand, some explanations, what we call molar explanations, are more focused on big picture patterns to help explain things. So something about how much payoff they get through an entire session or across many sessions and experiences, rather than just the immediate momentary situation right now. So basically, does the brain pay attention only to the moment-to-moment experience, or does it keep track of some of those longer-term variables? Can it actually compare long-term, like this session to that session? So our second explanation was more of a molar explanation for ratio schedules having a higher rate of behavior, a different molar type of explanation for this fact that we've observed up here that's so common. So for example, some studies with rats have suggested the molecular explanation is what drives them to respond faster on ratio schedules. But then there's other studies on humans suggesting that we humans are a little more sensitive to the big picture stuff from the molar explanation, that we're more attuned to the overall patterns about how much my rate of responding that session or that day led to more or less overall payoff. Right? For that day, for that session, or you could think for that pay period at work, right? You don't necessarily, when you're working hard at your job, get reinforced moment to moment for every bout of hard work that you do, but you may be able to track across the whole pay period, like I worked my ass off for this 2 weeks and look, I got more of a bonus, or I didn't work as much this week, I didn't get as many sales or whatever, so I got a much smaller bonus. That's the kind of thing humans track a little more easily or automatically. It seems to drive our ratio versus interval responding. But in the right circumstances, we humans do become sensitive to molecular patterns. And likewise, in the right circumstances, rats actually start to pick up on the overall molar level patterns. So both explanations may be true. So they are distinct explanations. We can test them separately with some pretty complicated experiments, but we won't get into those details here. Now, finally, I wanted to address one more thing in this video. We've talked about FR, VR, FI, and VI being the most common schedules of reinforcement, but I mentioned there are lots of other types, lots of other varieties we can think of, right, for schedules of reinforcement, both in real life situations that we encounter all the time, and also what we use in the lab for studies. So I'll just give one example here. There's more in clarification slides if you want those, or we'll go over more as we get further into the semester. But for example, we could set things up on a progressive ratio schedule. So this is really similar to that idea of a fixed ratio, an FR schedule that we talked about before, but now the ratio number goes up each time they get the reinforcement. So like maybe the first reinforcer requires just 2 responses, but to get the next one, they're going to have to press the lever 4 times. And then they're going to have to press it 6 times to get the next food. And to the next food, they're going to have to work even harder and press it 8 times, then 10. And eventually it takes a lot of work to get each reinforcement. Or we could even ramp it up faster than that, like 2 behaviors are required, then 4, then 8, then 16, then 32 if it doubles each time, right? You can't do that forever or it reaches, billions very quick. But something like that would quickly, it takes a ton of work to get each reinforcement, right? Now, why might we use progressive ratio schedule? Well, one reason we might do it is to study like how reinforcing something is. Like, how hard will you work to get this reward? Like, if we want to know how much this nonverbal kid likes M&Ms, or, want to compare how much this kid likes M&Ms versus Skittles or something like that. Or if we want to study how reinforcing different drugs are to better understand addiction. Like, how hard will an addict work for cocaine versus for heroin versus for nicotine or alcohol or whatever. And we actually study this using a progressive ratio schedule by finding what's called the break point. So when we want to study sort of addictive drugs, how reinforcing a drug is, we look for the highest iteration they completed before giving up. So on this progressive ratio schedule, basically what number do we get to before it was just too much work to get the payoff? The higher our progressive ratio counter got to before it was just too much to be worth the effort, that's the break point. So for example, a rat that we've previously got hooked on heroin might be given a hit after just 2 lever presses. So it doesn't have to work very hard. Just press the lever twice, it gets its hit. The next time we put it in that cage, in that operant chamber, we might say it takes 4 lever presses to get the heroin. And then the next time it goes in there, it takes 8. And the next time it goes in, 16, and then 32, and so on. Maybe it's willing to press the lever, 512 times to get a hit of the drug. But when we then increment up to the next step of 1,024 behaviors required to get the next hit, the rat may never finish that, right? It may give up before getting that next hit at 1,024. In that case, we would say the break point is whatever level they got to previously. So if 512 was the last level that they did complete, that's the break point, 512. However, when using progressive ratio schedules, we can actually run into a side effect if we do it poorly. So basically, if the ratio requirement increases too rapidly, we get something called ratio strain. The animal starts kind of taking longer and longer pauses, which means it's getting reinforced even less often, which makes it less likely to make it to the next reinforcer, and eventually it just gives up. So with progressive ratio schedules, where you're making it harder and harder, it takes more and more work each time to get the reinforcer, you'll get up to the highest number if you go slowly, if you progress through those ratios slowly. Sort of like the old analogy of a frog not jumping out of boiling water if you increase the temperature really, really, really slowly. If you increase your progressive ratio requirements slowly, you can get to a much higher break point than if you make big jumps and increase the requirements too quickly. Then they're just going to give up at some point. So, okay, hopefully the theoretical stuff in this video didn't bore you too badly. It is important, I think, as a parent or pet owner or consumer to become familiar with at least those basic 4 types of schedules, because you'll find they describe a lot of situations in our life and help explain why we behave the way we do, or why our kids behave the way they do, or why our pets behave the way they do. As I said before, our behavior is under the control of the contingencies in our environment, so it can be powerful to recognize how that works and some of the details, like how to set up a schedule in such a way that it resists extinction or maximizes behavior, how it might be used against us, when people are designing casino games or phone apps or a million other things. I think that's valuable to understand. All right, we'll end this video here.